So I think if you want to just get started in growth marketing or CRO, sure, look at people that are doing this and learn from them, whatnot, but don't take it as gospel and think that just because they get 100 likes on LinkedIn, they're better than you or they have it better. It's just everyone has their own story. If you want to do something, just do it. That's it.
No hacks invited to the party. No hacks invited to the show. We got a good thing going. No hacks invited today.
Welcome to No Hacks.show, a weekly podcast where smart people talk to you about better online experiences. Today, I'm excited to welcome back Juliana Jackson, Associate Director of Data and Digital Experience EMEA at MediaMonks, and co-host of the amazing and wildly popular Standard Deviation podcast. In this not-so-structured episode, we'll talk about AI customer voice analysis, but also about life, career, and a bunch of other things. Juliana, so good to have you back.
Nice to see you, Slobodan. How are you doing today? Very happy to be back here.
Doing great. Great to talk to you. First time that we're actually talking. Like we exchanged so many messages. You were on the podcast. It wasn't me as a host, but yes, so good to talk to you. Look forward to meeting you in person. The first question for today.
Oh my God, you're already jumping into it.
This is a question. This is not a discussion pod. This is not a Joe Rogan, let's talk about shit. This is a question-based podcast.
Oh shit, okay.
Tell me about selling internet over the phone.
Well, as you know, here in the Balkans in 2010-ish, probably, people were still honking cars. It was very hard to in 2010, it was like when I left my hometown next to the Black Sea, I moved to Bucharest and I was looking for a job to support myself. I was in law school actually, which I never finished. But that's a story for another day. So I needed a job because, my mom sent me, I'm not making this up. So when I left my house, my mom sent me to Bucharest with a bag of clothes with 20 lei, which means kind of like 5 euros, 4 or 5 euros. She sent me with 2 chickens, sarmale, which is like a Romanian, it's a Balkan food.
Yep.
It's wrapped cabbage rolls. Big pot of sarmale with chickens, with cheese, like all this food that I had with myself when I got here in Bucharest. I was like, and I was dating somebody back then who had a place to live from Bucharest, who's the father of my oldest son. Not with him anymore, not that that matters. But basically, I came to Bucharest, right? And I needed a job. So back then in 2010, when you were working here in Bucharest, they wouldn't make you a working contract. So it's called, I don't know how you call it in English, but in Romanian it's la negru, which means working, like hidden, black type of stuff. I don't know what's the English word for it.
I don't think there's only Balkans word for it. There's no English words for it.
Just for us,
Yeah.
Here, it's a la noir, which means basically working without a contract. So I ended up in this call center that was basically, my job was to call people that had their properties listed in newspapers and calling them and say, hey, there's something called the internet. And if you put this on our website, you get more chances to get it purchased. So in Romanian newspapers, people would go and try to sell their apartments, their houses, their lands, if they had anything. But back then in 2010, in the Balkans, we kind of caught up a bit slower to the whole internet craziness and to the online commerce and so on. So initially, what the people were telling me is like, you just have to convince them to list it in the newspaper. But when I was telling people, I was calling people from like the most random villages in Romania. It wasn't people from Bucharest. It was people from all over. Like I was talking to people from different parts of Romania that were living in a village or in a smaller city. And I was telling them like, hey, we have this website. And the questions that were happening were like, what is a website? What is the internet? Like people weren't familiar with this language because I remember my first few probably like days or a week. I was just following the script, and the script, I can remember it still to this day, that it was like, hey, we noticed that you have your property. Did you know that if you list this property on our website, you get exposure with this and this and this?
Right.
But these people were just like, in the Balkans here, when you inherit the property or you want to sell, it's always very accompanied with emotions because you got it from like a grandma that died at 70 and she was sick, and it's a very emotional transaction. It was, at least back then. Stuff changed. So I was very shocked that people didn't know what internet was, what a website is. So I didn't know much either. I was just fresh out of, like high school, my first year of college. I knew what a child would know about the internet. So then I remember I started actually going home and researching what is a website, what is it made of, how does the internet work? What's like, I was just trying to be helpful. So in the second week, I actually was educating people over the phone about the internet. And it was crazy because not everyone understood, but they kind of like, some understood the power of it and the idea of communication and exposure and, being present in a wider range than a newspaper could, but some didn't know. And
Right.
that's kind of like that story. And from that, me doing all this research about websites, about networks, about cloud, about hosting, it ended up being into, a 14-year-old now passion that I have about what makes people click online, what makes people have different emotions and feelings before they, swipe their credit cards and
But
make
that's
a
super
decision.
cool because without this random job,
Long-winded answer, bro.
without that random, like completely random job, you would not be where you are now. Like
Yeah.
life and Balkans work in mysterious ways, and just deal with it if you're not from there.
Yeah.
This is
That's
this
how
is
it
a
was.
very cool story. So one thing, isn't Romania like the country with the best and fastest internet, or has
Yes,
been?
now it is. Yes, we have.
Because you sold them the fastest internet, everybody bought from you, basically, right?
Yeah, now it is one of the
Yeah.
countries. I think it's probably the best internet.
Yep.
I have 5G right here in my kitchen.
How did that
Uh,
happen? Like how is Romania like it? Not a knock on Romania, but it feels like it should be a Sweden or a Norway or a Switzerland or something like that. How come it's Romania? Like, is there an explanation behind that?
I think in Romania we have some of the best engineers in Europe. I think like each country in the Balkans is like excellently good at something, and I think what we have here in Romania probably, and fuck it, I'll take responsibility better than anyone else.
Right.
Is we have very good engineers, people that can build, create, and architect a solution. And it's a fact, like you can research it. If you listen to this,
Very
have
cool.
very good engineers. And people like here in Romania, the most, I guess, access college is the Polytechnic College.
Mhm.
So everyone kind of, even my brother was there. So like, and he's an engineer himself. So like everyone kind of like when you grew up back in the days in I'm talking about millennials right now, like people our age. When you grew up back in the day, you either become an engineer or a doctor or I don't know, something like that. So a lot of people that like computers went to engineering. So all the people that are my age and dealt with computers and like video games and so on, they're engineers because they went to the polytechnics and
Right.
even I finished computer science, so that's funny. And I think that's kind of like what's the one of the reasons, and it's also like more cost effective to build something here
Yeah.
versus probably other countries. It's not the same case anymore because inflation hit us pretty hard. Like right now, I think I was telling you the other day
You
how
mentioned last week.
like I
know.
was like, wow, we have Berlin prices now, we have Germany prices. It's been insane lately.
It's
But in
crazy.
2010, it was very, very different. And I guess that's how it went. We have very, very good engineers, but not great marketers.
2010, you needed 20 lei, 2 chickens, and some sarmale, right? And you can just live off of that for a month or whatever it is.
Yeah, but that's what my mom could give me. Like I come
Of
from
course.
a small city. It wasn't in the countryside, but it was similar. Like one, like we call it provincia, which
yeah.
means like Provence, like
Right.
outside the capital and the big cities. So people from there, that's and my parents didn't have money. Like I grew up very, very poor. I used to uh my mom had a friend that had more money, and I used to wait for her daughter to grow out of clothes or shoes so
Oh,
I
wow.
can get
Yeah.
the and like I imagine like when I moved to Bucharest, that was the first time when I was with my former partner, it was the first time I could buy like a whole thing of bananas. Like I was shocked because I used to buy like one banana
Yeah.
like and share it with my parents, and you could only see like oranges and all this exotic fruit only for Christmas and Easter. when you would put yourself on the table. Like for us, it was like,
That's flashbacks. That's giving me flashbacks
I'm
because like
sorry, I don't want to go there.
I spent 90s in Serbia, so like I'm guessing 80s
Wasn't
in
different.
Romania, 80s in Romania and 90s in Serbia, like the economic situation must have been very, very similar. One of my like I listen to a few podcasts. One of the podcasts that I love is Behind the Bastards, and they do a lot of Ceausescu takes, like
Yeah,
explain, but not just explain him as a dictator and an evil person, but explain the country and like the whole nation and what went on there. The transformation of Romania from that, like, I mean, Borat chose Romania to film a Kazakhstani village there because that was like that's what people thought of Romania back
yeah,
then. To what it is now, and like it's becoming sort of a technological force in Europe. It's very inspiring. It's fascinating, and like it means that there's hope for any country. And yeah, Serbia, I'm looking at you. So
Serbia is doing great. Also, I love it. I see Nemanja all the time. You know,
Serbia's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful country with good pleškavica.
Oh, absolutely the best. Yes. So let's talk about the main topic. That was to everyone who's not from the Balkans and who had to listen to this. I'm not sorry, but you should visit Balkans. You should go there. Romania, Serbia, Croatia, Bulgaria, whatever. Just go and have the time of your life. Let's talk about AI customer voice analysis. This is something that you have been working on for a while now, and
Yeah,
this is
Bruce.
something you're expert on this now. You used to be expert on many other things in the past. Like you go from your evolutions never stop, never cease to amaze me. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk about AI customer voice analysis first.
What do you want to know?
Everything, like why did you start doing this?
Good. It was probably like in 2021 when I had this. I recorded a video with Mike Robbins, who's at Snowplow, and with Millie Casey, that's probably now at Google. I recorded this YouTube video. This is like before the AI hype. And we recorded the video to show people how to calculate sentiment analysis in Google Sheets. And also, it was the first view on ChatGPT 3.5. So this, I will share the link with you so you can put it in
I would
the
love to see that, yeah.
description. So back then, she showed me how to do sentiment analysis using AppScript, using the NLP AI from the GCP. You know, it's a service. And then we were using like DALI for the first time, GPT 3.5. This is way before people were even talking on LinkedIn about this shit.
It's basically like the first in your village with a color TV. Like that's what you did. Let's use a Balkan analogy again.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you remember those TVs that had buttons and you'd have to take a fishing stick to change the channel?
Oh yeah.
Fucking hated it. My father was always, oh, go and change the channel. And you had that big fish on the TV, and with the dust, you had the fish too, right? You have to have the fish.
No,
like,
not the fish. What's the fish?
oh, the big bottle fish, the big glass fish.
No, that we had
Oh.
like the white thing on top that the
Of
grandma.
course, Mileu. The Mileu. I
Yeah,
don't-
yeah. That. You know what I mean.
I feel bad for everyone on non-Balkan listening to this, but Mileu was the shit my mom used to make them.
One thing that the flat TVs, like thin TVs, ruined is
Cannot
Mileu.
put
That you
Mileu
can
on
no. They need to. Someone needs to invent one that you can put on a flat
You
TV.
need to put a picture of this on the episode. Like, don't put my face, just put the TV with
I'll
with
do
Mileu
something. I'll
and
do
the
some.
fish. And
I love it. You need to send me that image, but yeah, let's
we'll
get to that.
afterward.
Yes,
But yeah,
of course.
so I did this video with these guys, and keep in mind, like Mike Robbins is like this data engineer extraordinaire that, his company was bought by Snowplow. Poplin Data was the name of the company, and then Millie is a data scientist with a lot of experience. So when I saw this, I was like, shit, I can't wait to have to use this for something. So moving back to me being in MediaMonks, one of the first clients that I was put on to work with when I joined the company was Starbucks. So I was like, oh my God, Starbucks.
Of
It is
course.
great. And we used to we actually did all the technical implementation, the tracking across, all EMEA and just like 20 something markets, and think about Firebase, everything, GA4, whatnot. And at some point, the account wasn't owned by data; it was owned by the platforms team, the people that build the app, and so on. And if you saw the case study, and you'll find it in the link below, you will see that this is a very long-lasting relationship between Starbucks and MediaMonks. But at some point, the client was asking like, like we want to invest more into loyalty, we want to invest more into retention, but we need to understand more about what customers are saying. Just like there has to be a better way, because think about it, you have offline experience, you have online experience, you have app, you have websites. So for instance, here in the Balkans, Starbucks is very big, but the app just started
Yeah.
to take, because people use Glovo, people use other things to order. They don't use the app because we're lazy and we want the drink to come at home. We don't want to go and grab it on our way to work. No, we have very important needs in the morning with coffee. And
Oh
who's
yeah.
Balkan knows what I mean. So we cannot
Yes.
start.
Yeah.
So when that came, I remember like, oh, okay, so this is great. Like I love research in general. For me, like that's the best part of it. Like I'm a puzzle like person. I like to solve puzzles. So I'm very lucky that in MediaMonks we have a very big data science team. So I went to Krasimir Bambalov. Krasimir is originally from Bulgaria. He's also Balkan, but he's working here at MediaMonks from the Dusseldorf office. So I went to him. I said, Brate, with me his brother, I did this some years ago. Like, I know you know how to do this better than in Google Sheets and with AppScript, obviously.
Right.
Can we do this? And he was like, hell yeah, we can do this. So we did like a like an audit to see, like, cause what we used as a data source for Starbucks is their their app reviews. So in their stores, they have millions of reviews from across all the markets. So we took like a bit of a step back to assess, because like before you take any AI or data science project, you need to do a pre-audit. And in this pre-audit, you have to actually, I want to open a slide that I have for this, I don't want to mess it up. I have it right here. So it's a very important process that you need to do for any AI project. And I actually have this as a slide for a talk that I'm going to do this October at Conversion Jam. Like the most important part is to prepare the data, to evaluate the data, that you're gonna analyze. In this case, it was reviews. So the reviews were basically sitting on this third-party review collector. So you have to prepare this data and make sure that you have privacy by design principles to not spill any type of data that shouldn't be there in the Google Cloud, because then is where it went next.
Then it's gone. Exactly. Yeah.
So you cannot erase that. You always have to be privacy by design. But luckily, Google Cloud has this data loss prevention feature that you can clean up the data before you can use it. So then we got this data. We did this little audit before. We saw how it was gonna take, how much it's gonna cost, and we made the proposal. And obviously Starbucks liked it. That's why we did it. So then we actually got to work with it. So it was funny because initially we only wanted to do sentiment analysis. But once we did it, we realized that sure, seeing negative, positive, and neutral is great. Like, wow, people have a good experience or not. But like, it doesn't answer to the question of what and why. Why is it like this? So this is when we entered into the semantic analysis type of thing. And semantic analysis is able to analyze the relationship between words and the context and so on. But also you needed classification. You need to categorize this data. So for this, we use zero-shot classification, which is something you guys can find on Hugging Face. You can download it from there. Zero-shot classification, the best way I can explain it to, is basically like arranging books in a library. You put books that start with C, with D, with whatever. So when you give a prompt to the classification model, then the model based on that prompt is able to categorize all these reviews into their own buckets. So we ended up bucketing it based on onboarding, based on payment, like kind of the customer journey.
Right.
We tried to look at the whole customer journey, but we also did like a vocabulary, basically looking at all that data, analyzing it. Did we notice some patterns with payment methods or with sign up, or we forgot password? Like we didn't even know those were actual issues. So once we were able to do that, then we had this quantitative value, which was the volume of negative and positive and so on reviews and the type of them. But we also had the qualitative part to know, like, is all this, I don't know, 70 reviews negative because whatever, because people were trying to reset their password. So in a nutshell, once we analyzed all these reviews, my manager actually, she's very good at Looker Studio. We actually did the output in Looker Studio, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
Because initially we wanted to use like Jupyter notebooks or something like that because it's easier. It's all Python,
Right.
but it's not very client friendly, right? Like clients, it's
You
not
need
client.
charts.
It's
You
not
need easy. You
actionable.
need easy charts, right?
And it's not actionable.
Right.
That's the thing. You have to tell a story. And then it's like when and my manager, like one thing, she's so good at this stuff. Like she created this dashboard where she, on the first page, she explains the methodology, the process, how to read the relationship between charts. She had like this box plots. Amazing. And then you actually have the dashboard. And then on the third page, we had the glossary with how different things are calculated, how's the algorithm going. And this was a pipeline type of report. So every month it's being updated with the new reviews and the model processes them. And it's able to tell you what are the top complaints, the top opportunities, what's the sentiment. And then we go very granular with app version, which is very important for your team because you probably have different versions of your app running in market. So you need to see when you're releasing a new app version in a market, how it's, performing over time. So you can also see immediately what are the issues with the new version. So when you release it to another market, it's kind of like a, in a way, feature flagging type of thing when you can test the actual app version in a market versus another. So we looked at that, we look at markets, we look at Android versus iOS, and so on. Also, another interesting thing that I want to mention here, this wasn't part of the project, this is something that we realized afterwards, is that once you do this, when you do App Store optimization in general, and I know a lot of people do spend time to do App Store optimization, like the listing that your app has in the App Store before it's downloaded. It's a very interesting thing because most people use the same listing for both iOS and Android.
Why is that a problem?
Well, what phone do you have?
iPhone 13 Pro or something?
Great. So, and I have an Android. So,
Okay.
so the thing is here, the Android users are very different than iOS users. They look
So it's
for
not the phone, it's the user. That's
It's the
thing, right?
user.
Okay.
the way you can find this out, and this is something that came afterwards. We did this sunburst visualization of the customer journey. So a sunburst visualization is basically exactly as the name sounds, just a sunburst, like where you can click on different parts of the customer journey to see all the steps that took a user to get to a final point. So when you do this and you put it side by side, Android and iOS, you would notice that the iOS and Android users are purchasing very differently. They behave differently, but also the version of the app is slightly different on iOS than on Android because there's two different systems, there's two different marketplaces. So for instance, for a client, we noticed that on average, it would take them like 15 to 20 steps to purchase on iOS, while on Android it was 5. I was like, whoa, what's this indecisiveness? And then once we dig a bit deeper, we actually realized that the product menu versus the purchase was missing the add to cart button. So people were just going on this loop.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh,
this was
that's
a bug.
bad. Right.
It was a
right,
bug.
right.
It was just a bug. Like it's not. I want to say for the purpose of everyone listening to this that I am not one of those CRO pure people that are getting excited or upset because of a button. It's not, sometimes it's just a bug. It's not bad CRO.
You know what? Usually it's just a bug,
just a
unless
fucking
you're
bug.
like a highly optimized company. Usually it's something that someone didn't take care of properly. Like that's from my experience.
Or it's a release that, some code, it happens.
Yeah.
That's like, but having this type of visualization that looks at all the steps, very important, of course, to make sure that when you're doing this on an app, you correctly track the screen names. Because
Right.
the sunburst visualization is very much dependent on the screen name or the page name if you're doing it on the website. Website is more easy to get out of it.
Yep.
But screen names on apps, it's a whole different ball game. So that's kind of like an interesting thing. So once we looked at the behavior, the Android users and the iOS user was very, very different. So now when we're doing this App Store optimization, we always try to do this analysis because we're trying to optimize the journey to be different because there's different people. Like, for instance, the reason I used to have an iPhone and I like iPhones, but the reason why I prefer my Android is because I use a lot of like Google products. I like everything to be in the same place. I like the sturdiness. The pictures are also better on Samsung S24, but that's another conversation. But
I will not allow that conversation on this
but-
podcast. Like, I don't care about it enough to get into that.
I know we're different, right?
I know, of
we,
course,
we use different things.
Yep.
And that's kind of like what was like an extra learning from this thing. Like you realize like you can say in theory that they're different, but can you put your finger on why they're different? So that's why it's important to do this type of analysis and visualizations, because it shows you different ways to look at the data. And I don't remember who told me this. It's probably somebody that I recorded the podcast with, because I'm all over the place. But like a lot of times people don't look at the shape of the data. And that shit stuck to my head, because people look at the number, look at the what's written there at the text, but they don't look at the shape of the data.
Right.
Like, how does that data look? So that's why I recommend people to look into this type of, I think Content Square uses, I think Content Square has the sunburst visualization. So if you're using Content Square, advise you to go and check it out, because you can see the shape of the journey and how different it is. And like when I had them side by side, it was insane. And all the way we can do this was just look at purchasing behavior and data. When you add the reviews on top of it and the ratings on the stores, you would have like two full stories about how these users are and their issues and their top complaints and opportunities. So that's kind of like how this AI customer voice analysis thing grew. It's more than just the reviews. It's
Right.
more than just like what people write. It's kind of like shaping this unstructured data in a way that it gives you kind of like a different, I don't know, confidence about
Right,
what
so-
you can do.
So essentially, this is a tool that helps you understand what the data is trying to tell you. And to go back to Android, iOS, and all those other app version, if you're not segmenting, you're a freaking, I'm not gonna say what, but like
You
if you
need-
don't start with the segmentation, like if you're just looking at the overall numbers and saying on average you're doing it 100% wrong. And like this is a perfect example which you just described with the 5 steps versus 15 steps and whatnot. This is how you find problems. You know this better than I do, but like I'm just saying this to the microphone and to anyone listening.
And I
One-
wasn't ready
yeah.
for it myself.
Yeah?
Like this took all of us by surprise, because we were just
Yeah.
like what I really like about the people that I work with is that they're also like very curious about like, why is this happening? What does this mean? And again, like the sunburst, I think was also Winting's idea, my manager's idea to do it. And then when we saw this, it was like, oh my god, you were so right. And it was fun. It's that's the type of stuff that I like to do, like kind of like push data to a bit of a limit, because I'm kind of like never a fan. I don't know, maybe lately since I'm growing older, maybe I just don't get satisfied that easily with just looking at reports in G4 and doing 3 surveys and
No, but that's literally scratching the surface, like and doing nothing beyond that. Like
yeah.
if you don't dig in and try to, I mean, I've heard this term used a lot, interrogate the data and like try to find what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
You're not doing your job as an analyst, as a marketer, as whatever. Like if you're just reading the reports and giving your clients those same reports,
It doesn't
let's
really
do
work
some
like
work.
that.
Let's do some work, right? One last segment for this episode, and like this is a personal one. This is when I said in the intro we're gonna
I'm
talk
sorry,
about.
I feel like I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No. You're a guest on this podcast. You're supposed
I'm not used to being a guest, bro. Like I'm used to moderate this shit.
I know, but like,
So weird.
hey, the tables have turned, right?
It's so
So
weird.
reinvention and staying relevant. Like if anyone can talk about this, it's you, because your career has had so many evolutions. Like from the description of the previous episode in 21 when you were on this podcast, CLV lady, CXL, like I don't know what else. Like you did a lot of different things over the years. First of all, does this help you progress your career? Like what is the main reason of, and I understand not being able to settle. I totally get it. I totally get that. Searching for something else. It's some people are wired that way. I would say I probably am as well. But what does that do for your career? How does curiosity and the drive to constantly learn impacted that?
I have so many answers to that question. I don't even know where to start with. But I will start by saying that I do have ADHD. And when you have ADHD, one of the things that happens with this diagnosis and with people that have this condition is that we have something called hyperfocus. So when something interests us a lot, nothing else matters.
It's the only thing in the world. Yep.
And I remember I was talking to Tracy Larampo at some point, and I was telling, we were both agreeing that we have a closet of abandoned hobbies. Like, I used to paint. I used to actually work as a cook for some time. I worked in the music industry. Like, I did everything.
Yep.
Like, trust me, everything. So kind of like, I think that's how I'm biologically built, that I'm very curious and I like to like push the limits. But I would say that the common pattern across everything that I did is that I'm a builder and I do like to build stuff. I like to build it. I like to put it there in the market, scale it, and then move on. I don't
Got it.
like, I'm the type of person that would be there like for the, the long haul to get it out there. But then once it's out there, I feel like, I did my job and I need to go and create something else, which I think that's why I'm surviving so well in an agency right now.
Which is great. But what is your advice? Like I talked to Tracy as well on this podcast, and we talked about these things as well. But not just her, a lot of other people, like ADD, ADHD are words that get thrown around a lot when it comes to growth marketing and CRO and like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that's a problem. Maybe that's why this industry exists. Maybe that's a boost for this industry because you need that kind of attention switching and whatnot to be in growth marketing. What is your advice to someone just getting started who realizes that their mind works that way as well?
I just say go for it. I think you should, if you're just getting started, if you're in your 20s and you have like no kids, no family, nothing, to hold you back, I just say go and explore and fail fast,
And don't feel bad
fail
about
often,
it, right?
and don't feel bad about it. Like, there's something in my mind in the last period of time, and I'm gonna share with you right now. I think because of the nature of how social media is, and everyone putting their content and stuff, it looks a lot like people like myself. We might look like, oh, she's traveling, she's speaking, she's there, she's doing this, and it looks like we're always winning and we always have it figured out. But the truth is that it's really just the surface of it, like behind. And I posted about this a while back. People that are constantly told no, 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 because I come from sales. I don't give a shit if I go and I ask for something, or I go and I try to do something and somebody is gonna stop me, or is gonna try to stop me. I don't give a shit. Like that's kind of because I already built that type of thick skin to not care. But people only see the wins, they don't see the no's. Because I do get a lot of no's. Like, oh my God, like I get so many no's and I get turned down for a lot of stuff. So I think if you want to just get started in growth marketing or CRO, sure, look at people that are doing this and learn from them, whatnot. But don't take it as gospel and think that just because they get 100 likes on LinkedIn, they're better than you, or they have it better, or it's just everyone has their own story. So I think if you feel it in your heart that you want to go for something, just go for it, because you're gonna regret what you did, not what you didn't do. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's how you should regret stuff that you already did, not things that you didn't do. So if you want to do something, just do it. That's it.
I agree with so many of what you just said, everything you just said, literally. And like people just getting started, embrace it. Like embrace who you are. This is what I keep telling everyone in work, in where you come from. Like if it's a small village, if it's from Serbia, Romania, wherever it is, just embrace it and own it. Like it is who you are. So just not deal with it, but just ride with it. Like go with that full on. This is a really from a CLV lady to like PWIC Pro specialist. So
I'm
seriously,
not a PV Pro specialist. I'm a PV Pro fan.
I see the T-shirt. No,
I love those guys. No. If you're gonna hand it to me, I do love those guys because they're really trying to. I like them because they care about the community.
right.
I decided to I met them like 2 years ago at the Measure Camp. I met Marcin, And I tested their tool. Like when I had my website for the first time, I used their tool, and I love the fact that I can use it without the consent banner because I really hate
There you
consent
go.
mode. And
Yeah.
but I actually started to build with those guys, and they really care about the community, and they're always there. They're always like showing love, supporting people, and it's very rare to see an analytics tool in general that is so immersed into talking to everyone. Like, and they have time for everyone. So I decided to support them also because here, they're from Poland. They're here from, close to homes, and they're very, very nice people. The tool is amazing. I write about it on my blog. Go and check it out.
So there you have it. This was a great interview with a great friend, an online presence like no other on LinkedIn if you're into web analytics and marketing. Yeah. I know what I'm saying. I said it. So thank you, Juliana, for being a repeat guest, a two-time no hack. And to everyone listening to this episode, please consider rating, reviewing, sharing, and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for having me.